Hello. These are true horror stories from people who actually live them. Abandoned houses, strange sounds, moments you'll never forget. Brave enough? Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's begin. Max was a normal boy living in the suburbs, but everything changed on a rainy night when his parents had to rush to the hospital to take care of his grandmother. Alone at home, Max had no idea of the horror he was about to face. Hungry, Max decided to heat up the lasagna his mom had left for him. He preferred eating in his room since his parents weren't home normally. They wouldn't allow it. Max microwaved the food, grabbed a soda, and headed upstairs. While eating, he noticed someone outside his window, watching him. The figure wore a hood that completely concealed their body, and their face was impossible to make out. Max grabbed his phone to snap a picture, but by the time he was ready, the figure was gone. Shrugging it off, he finished eating and fell asleep. The next day was a sunny Saturday. Max noticed a list of chores his mom had left on the fridge. Mow the lawn, water the plants, do your homework. After breakfast, Max started working on the chores. While mowing the lawn, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Maybe I'm just paranoid because of that hooded figure last night, he thought. When he finished, Max went to the kitchen to make a sandwich. As he prepared it, he turned on the TV, which was already on the news channel. Urgent. More disappearances reported in the city. If you know anything, please call 888 to 666, said the local reporter. Oh my God, you have to believe me. I saw it. That thing wasn't human, exclaimed a supposed witness. Max's stomach churned. Great. My parents leave, and this happens, he thought anxiously. Recalling the figure from the night before. Max decided to shower and then finish his schoolwork. By the time he was done, it was already dark, and he was starving. He decided to order a pizza. Just as he was about to dial on his cell phone, the landline rang. Max hesitated, but eventually answered. Hello? Who's there? Silence. I said, who's there? No one responded. He decided to ignore it and placed his order instead. One large pepperoni pizza for street, house, please. Got it. Your order will be ready in 30 minutes, replied the worker. As Max waited by the door, the phone rang again. He answered it once more, but this time, a voice whispered from the other end. Look at me, I'm at the window. Max turned around slowly and saw the most horrific and repulsive thing anyone could imagine. A creature, a grotesque hybrid of human and pig, stared back at him through the glass. Its pink skin glistened, its pig-like ears twitching slightly. It had no eyelids, or maybe its wide, staring eyes simply made them impossible to see. Its eyeballs were yellow, and its pupils burned red. The glass fogged up with every raspy breath it exhaled. Max ran upstairs, terrified, and locked himself in his room. He hid in the closet, tears streaming down his face as he dialed his parents. No answer. He realized his phone had no service. Curling up in a fetal position, he sobbed quietly until he heard a knock at the front door. Still trembling, Max forced himself to go downstairs. He placed his shaking hand on the doorknob and opened it. The pizza had arrived. The delivery car was parked outside, but it was empty. Blood was smeared across the driver's seat. Panic surged through Max, and he bolted back into the house. This time, he grabbed the landline to call the police. Just as he dialed, a foul breath warmed the back of his neck. He froze. Slowly, he turned. It was there. The creature stood just inches away. Its stench, a mixture of metallic blood and rotting flesh, was overpowering. Max ran to his room, the creature chasing after him. He barely managed to slam the door shut, and secure it with a flimsy latch. Asterisk. Come on, kid, the creature growled in a deep, guttural voice. I know you're in there. Let me in, I promise. It won't hurt much. Asterisk. The creature started pounding on the door, each blow stronger than the last. Max hid in the closet, trying to control his breathing. Asterisk. The door finally gave way with a deafening crash. Heavy breathing filled the room. Asterisk. The closet door creaked as the creature's deformed fingers brushed against the wood. Max held his breath, but his pounding heart echoed in his ears. Surely it would hear him. Asterisk. In the distance, the sound of police sirens grew louder. It was the only sound left. Heavy footsteps retreated, announcing the creature's escape. Asterisk. A neighbor, alarmed by the earlier screams, had called the police. Perhaps they'd heard the delivery driver's final cries. Asterisk. When the police arrived, there was no trace of the creature or the driver. It was classified as another disappearance in the area. Asterisk. Of course, no one believed Max. They were ready to send him to a psychiatric ward, so he changed his story. It was a person wearing a pig mask. They killed the pizza guy, and I hid inside. I'm sorry for lying. My mind played tricks on me. The disappearances stopped after that night, but Max was never the same. Nightmares haunted him. He kept asking himself the same question. Was it real? Told me he would know if I looked inside. On several occasions, he asked me to drive down to that same house and stay with the guy, whose name was Julio, for a certain amount of time. In total, I've made around $3,500. Most recently, Jack asked me to stay in his house overnight. I woke up to a text message from him. I need you to spend the night at my house. I hadn't ever seen him in person, but I had talked to him on the phone a few times. He proceeded to tell me he would pay me $1,000 to spend the night at his house, provided that I followed a few rules. I drove to his house that evening. The driveway was empty, and it normally was, but the porch light was on. I walked up, unlocked the door, went inside, and then locked it again. Everything in the house looked the same. Jack had told me over the phone that he would leave the list of rules on the dining room table. I set all my stuff down in the living room. My bags looked like garbage compared to the fancy furniture in there. I wandered into the kitchen and then to the dining room. Sure enough, there was a piece of paper on the wooden table. Held down by an empty glass. Lock the door when you come. And I'd only answer calls from Marvin. Don't turn on any. Faucets between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter who they say they are, after 10 p.m. If the door to the closet at the end of the hall is open, sleep in the library. If closed, sleep in any of the bedrooms. The gardener comes at midnight. If he starts knocking on the windows, hide. Turn the TV on and let it play on static through the night. Do not forget to do this. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. I'll pay you in the morning. Good night. I made sure to follow all the rules. To be honest, I was regretting my decision. But seeing as I was already here, and I was getting paid, I decided to stay anyway. I figured as long as I followed all the rules, I'd be perfectly fine. Still, it felt a little odd. What was this? A haunted house? Nevertheless, I lounged around the house for a few hours, as I was planning on going to sleep around 9, since that's the time that all the weird shit would begin to happen. At 8:50, I brushed my teeth, using the faucet for the last time before 9. I checked the closet in the hallway, and upon seeing that it was open, I moved my stuff into the library and got ready to sleep on the couch. I locked the doors just in case, and laid on the couch, scrolling through my phone. I hadn't gotten any more messages from Jack, and I started to think up scenarios and reasons as to why he had such strict, peculiar sets of rules in his house. I had dozed off at some point because, At exactly 10:16 p.m., I was woken up by the doorbell ringing. I was about to get up to check, but then I remembered the rule. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter who they say they are. After 10 p.m., I stayed on the couch, trying not to move, paranoid that they would hear even the slightest sound. It's the police. Open up. I didn't move. Hello? It's the police. Open up or we're coming in. I still didn't move, but I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. There was silence for a while after that. Then the doorbell rang again. Hey, it's Jack. Let me in. It sounded like Jack, but still, I didn't get up. He would have a key, wouldn't he? Why would he need me to let him in? This continued for almost a full hour. Different people would ring the doorbell, announce themselves, and then disappear when I didn't respond. I was finally able to fall asleep, and the gardener never came. When I woke up the next morning, I heard someone in the kitchen. I got up slowly and unlocked the door as quietly as possible, taking my phone with me and walking across the living room and into the kitchen. I stopped at the entrance and peered in. It was Jack. He was standing in front of the stove, stirring something as the coffee machine brewed coffee on the counter behind him. Hey, good morning, he said when he saw me. Hi, I replied, nervous. I hadn't seen him in person before, but he looked exactly like his pictures online. Scrambled eggs? He asked, motioning to the pan with a wooden spoon. Yeah, thanks, I replied, walking over to take the plate from him. I ate my breakfast and drank some coffee in silence. So how was it? He asked. It was okay. Nothing super freaky happened. I replied, cool. He replied, there was an awkwardness in the room. I think I'm gonna go now. I have class, I trailed off. I didn't, but I really wanted to get out of there. Double quotes. Oh no. Yeah, sure. I'll talk to you some other time, he replied. I grabbed my stuff and he walked me to my car. I could see him standing in the driveway, staring at me as I left. When I got home, I unpacked all my stuff and noticed that I still had the list with me. I sat on my bed and read it again. I felt my body tense up as I realized that I had forgotten something. Turned the TV on and let it play on static through the night. Do not forget to do this. Turn the TV on and let it play on static through the night. Do not forget to do this. Do not forget to do this. I stared at the words on the page until they lost meaning. Beside me, my phone buzzed, snapping me back to reality. It was the $1,000 payment. I looked at my phone and then back at the list. Maybe it wasn't an important step. As I was thinking this over, a text from Jack came in. I'm not in town right now. I should be back next week, so you're free from running any more errands for me until then. Just sent the payment. Go do something fun. I stared at the message and read it again, and once more for good measure. Not in town right now. I thought back to this morning and how Jack was in his house, how he gave me breakfast. I'm not in town right now. Within minutes, a new text came in, this time from a number that I didn't recognize. Did you forget to do something? The text was followed by a picture of Jack, or whoever this version of Jack was, standing in front of the TV. I didn't respond. Next came another picture. This one was of the outside of my house. It was followed by another text. Watch out. It happened on the coast of northern Florida, near a quiet town called Cape San Blas, the kind of place where the ocean looks calm from a distance, but hides stories no one dares to talk about after dark. 5 friends, Michael, Aaron, Jake, Lucas, and Michael's visiting cousin Ethan, had made a habit of going night fishing every weekend. They were young, confident, and convinced the ocean belonged to them. It was late August when everything changed. A hot night with air so heavy It felt like walking through steam. The boys had heard rumors earlier that week about two local men who had gone missing while night fishing in the same area. Their boat was found drifting the next morning, rods still set, lights still on, but no bodies. The locals whispered about the place being cursed. Fishermen refused to go anywhere near the rocks after midnight. Asterisk, the five friends laughed the rumors off. In their minds, people disappear in the ocean all the time. Currents, exhaustion, panic. Nothing supernatural, nothing mysterious. So that night, armed with headlamps, tackle boxes, and a cheap Bluetooth speaker, they drove down the long, empty beach road and hiked along the rocky shoreline to their usual spot. Asterisk, the trail was narrow, uneven, surrounded by sharp, jagged rocks formed by old volcanic movements. They walked in a single line because there was no space to walk side by side. Michael led the way. Behind him were Aaron, Jake, Lucas, and finally Ethan. It was around 10:15 p.m. when they reached the stretch of rocks that jutted out into the sea like a broken spine. Asterisk, the first strange thing happened as soon as they stopped walking. Asterisk, they all heard it. The sound of someone running through the shallow water, heavy. Frantic footsteps splashing violently, followed by the unmistakable sound of a body diving into the sea. Asterisk, Michael froze. Asterisk, what the hell was that? Aaron whispered. Asterisk, but Michael didn't answer. His face had gone pale. His flashlight pointed at nothing. It took him a few seconds before he finally managed to speak. Asterisk, I swear, I just saw someone, or something. A tall, really tall guy. Black silhouette. It wasn't running like a normal person, he said quietly, his voice shaking in a way they'd never heard before. Asterisk, despite their fear, the boys convinced themselves it must have been a drunk swimmer or a homeless guy who wandered too close to the water. They decided to look around to calm their nerves. Each grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the cluster of petrified rocks that rose, like a natural wall. Then they saw him. A figure lying on his back on the rocks as if he had been waiting for them the whole time. Asterisk, he wasn't breathing hard. He wasn't wet. He wasn't even moving. He just stared at them with eyes that reflected the flashlight beams in a way no human eyes ever could. He was incredibly tall, his limbs long and twisted, his skin pale like old driftwood. His chest rose and fell, but the movement was wrong, too slow, too deep. Asterisk, nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Then the figure smiled. That smile was the moment something snapped inside them. The boys turned and bolted in panic. But running on those narrow rocks in the dark was almost impossible. They stumbled, slipped, screamed at each other to move faster. Asterisk, Ethan, the youngest, was the first to fall. They heard him scream. A short, sharp sound cut off, suddenly, like someone had put a hand over his mouth. When the others turned back, he was gone. Not a splash, not a cry, just gone. Asterisk, Jake pulled out his phone and started recording, pointing the camera into the darkness behind them. If something happens, he shouted, people need to know. Asterisk, his words were sliced in half. A hand too long, too thin reached out of the dark and yanked him backwards so hard he dropped his phone. His scream echoed off the rocks, then silence. Asterisk, the remaining three ran harder, stumbling and bruising themselves against the razor-sharp stones. Lucas tripped next. When he hit the ground and looked back, the creature was already inches from his face. It didn't pounce. It simply placed one hand on his chest. Lucas gasped once, violently, and his body went completely still. Michael and Aaron were the only ones left. Aaron tried to climb up the rocks, scrambling like a terrified animal. Michael heard a cracked bone splitting, and then Aaron's body was dragged upward into the darkness between the boulders. Asterisk. Michael was shaking so hard he could barely breathe. He remembered what his grandfather had told him years ago about evil things that lived between worlds, about how the ocean was one of the oldest doors, and how they hated the sound of holy words. He didn't know what else to do, so he began reciting the only prayer he remembered from childhood. Asterisk, he didn't look back. He didn't stop. He just kept praying and running until he reached a stretch of sand near the highway. A man driving by saw him stumbling in the dark and rushed him to a nearby hospital. Asterisk, when the police questioned him, he told them everything. Nobody believed him. But Jake's phone was recovered wedged between two rocks the next morning. The video on it was blurry, chaotic. But one thing was unmistakable. Jake screaming at the camera, something tall moving behind him. And then the sound of him being dragged away. Asterisk, the bodies of the four friends were never found. Not even their clothes. Not even a shoe. Asterisk, Michael stayed alive for a few months after the incident, but he was never the same again. He refused to go near water. He stopped leaving his bedroom. Doctors diagnosed him with severe trauma, but nothing helped. Asterisk, he died in his sleep that winter. Heart failure at just 20 years old. Asterisk, locals say he died of fear. Asterisk, others say the thing from the rocks came back for him. Asterisk, but the fishermen of Cape San Blas agree on one thing. Asterisk, no one goes night fishing there anymore.